Or see, I don't know if I'm going to give it to you. You know, I mean, the reality is like, I'm going to say Justin Fields is the starter for Pittsburgh by week 10. I think to be really bold, say like, hey, week 5, maybe that's the
week
case.
1.
But I think it eventually happens yeah, or week 1 for that matter, to go real bold, which maybe isn't even that out of the realm of possibility. So I think ultimately he ends up being their starter. Why this is, and that is, you know, why that is such a big move in free agency with the trade that just went down.
That beautiful voice you heard earlier was my friend and LSU alum, Booger McFarland. Also, that beautiful bald head you now see is my guy, Boog. Boog, is it more likely that Russ or Justin Fields is the starter in Pittsburgh at the end of the season?
I'm going to say it's Russ, man, especially if Russ is healthy. Let's understand the reason why Russ was brought to Pittsburgh is because they needed more competent quarterback play. And the reason that Justin Fields is no longer in Chicago is the same reason. They needed more competent quarterback play. So as long as both of these guys are healthy, I think Russell Wilson gives the Pittsburgh Steelers the best chance because of his ability to distribute the football and be the ultimate game manager. Like, Pittsburgh has weapons when you talk about George Pickens and what they can do with Warren and things out of the backfield. So Russell Wilson, to me, has a decided advantage over Justin Fields, not only in week 1, but throughout the season as long as he stays healthy.
See, I disagree with that. Like, I believe that Russell Wilson can do some of the things you want to do from a game manager standpoint, but it's time for Pittsburgh to move past game manager and have a young quarterback with a strong arm, a guy that can run. Shoot, Justin Fields is more old Russ than Russ is old Russ. And if you could find some synergy with Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, George Pickens on the outside, Freiermuth, Washington, I think that they could be so much more explosive with Justin Fields. So, Jeff, when you hear Booger seem so sure about Russell Wilson, it seems the Pittsburgh Steelers have already said he's the starter. Is that a mistake?
Oh, they've said it. It's only a mistake if you believe it. I don't personally believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers are absolutely sold on Russell Wilson being the starter. And Tim made a really good point last hour. They have no financial commitment to Russell Wilson that would guarantee anything other than this sort of thing where they're saying like, oh, you'll come play for us for $1.2 million? Yeah, you're totally our starter. While they're winking to everybody else in the building saying if Justin Fields comes in and balls out, that's the way it's going to go. Remember when Russell Wilson got to Seattle all those years ago? They had just signed Matt Flynn in Seattle to an $8 million deal. Guess what happened? Russ came in 30 seconds and won that job. He should know as well as anybody, when you show up to training camp, if Justin Fields does that, it's going to be his job no matter what the Steelers say right now.
All right, Tim, I think it's going to take a little bit more than 30 seconds for Justin Fields to overtake Russell Wilson. But when you think about Justin's skill set, sort of the way he finished the season in Chicago, and you look at the skill players, Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator, is Pittsburgh a place that Justin Fields can thrive and become the quarterback we thought he would be when he was drafted 11th overall by Chicago?
Yeah, absolutely. You look at Arthur Smith's history. Look, he's a former offensive lineman. He wants to run the football. He's creative with how he's running, and he has a history of running the football with the quarterback. And when you look at Justin Fields, and I felt this way about Fields when he came out of college, and nothing I've seen from him in the National Football League has changed my opinion on this. I think he has Cam Newton-like qualities. Cam Newton was a league MVP in large part because he was a remarkable runner of the football, and that in turn helped him develop as a passer. There was a stretch where Cam was the best goal line back in the National Football League. I think in terms of the fit with the personnel that's there, some of the guys you've mentioned, and then what Arthur Smith wants to do, yeah, I think it's maybe the best spot for Justin Fields to go. So, look, the lack of financial commitment, and I would just say this too, Russ could be in a situation where he's playing okay, and Mike Tomlin may not be like, hey man, I need to bench this guy. But look at the division, fellas. Like, the division is brutal. There's no easy out in the division. So even if you have a quarterback that's playing okay or above average, if you're not winning, there is going to be pressure to change at that position when you have a super talented young player waiting in the wings.
Booger, you chuckled at that. When I'm listening to Tim, what I'm hearing is if Russell Wilson isn't knocking it out of the park facing the Deshaun's and the Lamars and the Joe Burrows, that there could be a quarterback controversy. And you heard some of the Cam Newton comparisons. Why is that so funny to you? And is a quarterback controversy inevitable in Pittsburgh?
Well, a quarterback controversy might be inevitable. Here's why it's funny to me, because we're talking about these two guys as if they can or are going to be the answer. Let's understand the facts. The facts are that both of their last stops did not want them. Okay, if you look at Denver with Russell Wilson, if you look at Chicago with Justin Fields. So now we have the lesser of two evils in Pittsburgh. Which one of these guys can give Pittsburgh the best opportunity to be successful? And I think if you look at their track record, we all would have to be honest and say that Russell Wilson is a better quarterback than Justin Fields. Now, sure, Justin Fields has upside. No. Justin Fields is younger. And if they're even, you play the younger guy. I get all of those things. But at the end of the day, it's about winning football games. And I know Justin Fields is more athletic, but that position of quarterback at the end of the day is about distributing the football to your playmakers. And if either one of these guys had did it at a high level, they both would be at their previous organization. So if I got to choose between one of these two guys, I'm going to go with the guy that I know the most about, the guy that I've seen it before, and that's Russell Wilson over Justin Fields.
I mean, it's not that it's upsetting, but, you know, like I just think about Justin Fields and what Russell Wilson didn't do the last 2 years. And I'm not like even the biggest Justin Fields guy. I understand it. The reason, though, to me, why the Bears are getting rid of Justin Fields isn't because they necessarily just don't want him. It's that they can literally, very clearly upgrade in their minds with Caleb Williams with that #1 pick. Suddenly, when I'm hearing about Arthur Smith from Tim talking about that, it harkens me back to when Ryan Tannehill was cast off the Dolphins and ultimately landed in Tennessee and was the comeback player of the year because of what Arthur Smith did with him because of his legs. The more I hear this, the more I feel like Justin Fields is setting himself up to be the starter of this team sooner than later.
We keep talking about the fact that both of these quarterbacks were sent off from their last stops. Baker Mayfield was sent off from like 3 stops in the last year or two, and he found a way to be a playoff winning quarterback in Tampa Bay. So why can't Russell Wilson do that? Why can't Justin Fields do that? Tim, looking at these two quarterbacks, does either of them, if they play to their potential, make the Pittsburgh Steelers a contender not only to win the NFC North, but to finally win some games in the playoffs, which has eluded Mike Tomlin the last few years?
Yeah. Well, let me just say this first, RC. If the Bears were picking 15th or picking 12th, they wouldn't be moving on from Justin Fields. The only reason it's a conversation to reset the quarterback contract is because they're drafting at the very beginning. So it's not like, I really don't believe that Chicago looks at it and says, we don't think Justin Fields can play. So to help use that context to answer your question about Pittsburgh, yeah, I think either guy is capable to help Pittsburgh win a playoff game. I think both players are better than Kenny Pickett. And I think that Mike Tomlin has proved that he is a remarkable coach that is always going to have his team in it. And so if you have your team in it and you upgrade the quarterback position and the quarterback play has been bad in Pittsburgh, then yeah, either one of these guys can do it. I just think by the time we get there, we're going to have turned the page on the Russell Wilson era in Pittsburgh and be in the Justin Fields era in Pittsburgh.
Boog, I know you keep saying that Russell Wilson should be the starter the entire season, but if you're Omar Khan and you're Mike Tomlin, shouldn't you want Justin Fields to win this quarterback competition? Shouldn't you want Justin Fields to play well? Because he's the guy that could go forward to be your franchise quarterback.
Absolutely, RC. You would love for Justin Fields to come in there and wow you from day one of training camp and be the starter, pick up the option, extend him, and move forward. But that's in a perfect world. But I just don't know if I've seen enough from Justin Fields for him to come in there and say, you know what? I'm going to see enough. I have confidence in this young man and what I've seen for him to move forward being the starting quarterback. I hope it plays out that way because it will be great for Justin Fields to fulfill his potential. I just need to see it before I can believe it.
Well, I'm sure this is something we'll talk about all offseason and we'll get to in training camp. Needless to say, the quarterback room now of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields is much more talented and in a better position than it was with Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph. So if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, there is that to be excited about.